Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's class. Continuing from our last class, we'll be talking about Introduction to Technical Analysis. So, as I've said, we have different, various kind of technical analysis, but for today, we'll be talking about the fundamental one, like the, the basic one, the fundamental one that everybody uses, yeah, which is the support and resistance. So follow me as we dive into it. So, like I always say, trading is very, very simple. I mean, all the concept is very simple and easy to understand. You don't like you don't have to be afraid of understanding it, because this is something that you can actually explain to a 5 year old and they will understand. So when you start hearing some basic terms, and believe me, everything is simple. It is only when it comes to the application that you might encounter some problem, but all what you are still doing is still the basic, knowledge. So let us go on by getting familiar with what support and resistance is. So support and resistance is like I'm sure that you probably have had it, and and if it is your first time hearing it, it's okay. We call it the bedrock of trading. So every trader in the world makes use of support and resistance zones. It is used by retail traders, trading institutions, banks, swing traders, scalper, day trader, and everywhere in the foreign exchange market. So every type of trader, every trader, they uses support and resistance. They probably might just give it another name, but we are still talking about the same thing: support and resistance. There's a lot of names that have they've replaced it with, but the concept still remains support and resistance. So some might choose to give it different names, such as key level, but we are still talking about the same concept. So the same concept still apply. So now let's go on to picking it one by one. What is support? Support occur when falling prices stop, change direction, and begin to rise. Support is viewed as a floor which is supporting or holding up prices. A support represents the lowest zone that price reached before moving back up. So this simply just telling you that support is a point on your chart where price stop, you know, moving down. To me, in a simple word, I would just say this support and resistance zone are area where uh, uh area where money changes hands. So just a simple word that you can use to remember support is floor level. Just keep following me. You will understand when I start going to my chart and drawing stuff for you. So let me show you how it look like here. This Looking at this diagram, you can see. Let me use my cursor so that you can follow me. So you can see, if you can see my cursor. So this is like the floor level, and you can see how it has 3 touches, 3 points on the screen, and you can see how markets, bounce off of which support, of which support level. So that support level, you can just call it the price floor, right? And you can see it on the chart here too, or a line that was marked and was, you know the name written there was support level. So it is just a level that is holding price up. Now let me go to my own charts and explain properly. Yeah, so today said we're talking about support and resistance. Bear with me. Support and resistance. So number one, I said support and resistance. Support and resistance, they are area where money changes hand. Yeah, just a simple definition for them. Area area where money changes hand. So let's move on. I'll start with the first one, which is the support, and I will explain better what the support is. So let's go on, and I'm going to be explaining with a diagram. So another word, I said a support level is the floor level. Let me floor floor area. Let me just say floor area. It's just like a layman word, so that you can get, so that you can not, you don't forget what support is. So I can also say that this is the area where demand exceeds supply. Area where demand exceeds supply. Let me put it in the font. Area where demand exceed supply. Another way for me to explain this is that a situation in the market where there is so much buyers in the market compared to the sellers, there is a lot of buying activities, a lot of buyers in the market, but oh, a- very few sellers. So in that type of situation, there will be a lot of buying in the market, right? So let me show you how the let me draw a comment. All right, just follow me. This is how the support looks like. Assuming this is the floor area, I'll name it support. It watches how price bounces off from this area when market reach that point. You know, market bounces off this area. It is unable to break out of this zone. So this is opportunity for buyers to come into the market and get in. You know, and in most cases market still comes back to this area, and people that are unable to get in at this first touch can get in at this second touch. That is why we call it support. There are a lot of buying at this area, buying buyers, that a lot of buyers waiting in these areas to get into the market. So anyone that is not able to get in at this first touch can use this opportunity to get in again when the market, you know, comes back to this area, and market, you know, continue buying again, and the market can also retest again. It has retested about twice now, one, two. It can retest the third time again, and buyers come into the market and take advantage of this movement, and markets go up again, right? Oh, sorry. Let me just use another. I was unable to draw it completely. So this is what we call the support area, right? This is what we call the support area. So it is an area in the market, is a zone in the market where uh, where where buyers comes in and change the direction of the market. As you can see, the market was there was when market is selling, and then it gets to a point where it starts buying, because a lot of buyers come into the market and take control of the market. And when price returns to that point, the buy continues and continues again. So for you to understand better, let me go to my chart. I'll be using the chart to explain, like, as I'm talking about it, so you can get it properly. So now let me go to my chart. This instrument that's on my screen is volatility 25, the forex synthetic pair. So let me use this as an explanation. Let me look for a support area and explain better. Right, so this is a support area on my screen. Let me identify it. Coming on. Oh, shit. Okay. Yes. So let me use my line. Let me draw my trend line. Use my trend line to, draw this, to draw it. This is like a support area. You can see, and you can count how many times markets come back and retest the place. Let me use my cursor. Okay. So you can see this place. Let me name it support. Okay, you can see from this place, where the buy started was, or was this point. But before market got to this place, you can see that there was a lot of selling. Market was selling down to this point. When markets, on where the buyers came in and reversed the trend, and the market started buying, and you can see, you just follow my cursor. So the market started buying, and then it came back. I've drawn the support line. Oh, it came back down to that support area again and tested it the second time. You can see this at this point, even though this one, it was not really touching the line, and then it bounces off again, but this was just a little movement. It came back again and touched the line, yeah, and retest. Okay, I won't count this one because it didn't come to the line. So let me just say the market came down and retest at this point again. This is the second touch, and there was a little movement, and came back and touched this point again, which is the third touch. So this is like this is the floor level. This is the area where markets, reach and then start buying, right? So this support level has three touches. The first touch one, the second one, two, and the third one, three. So it has three touches. So in the future, market can still, come back to this area, right? Can still come back to this area. So this is a support level. These are area where buyers will be looking to get into the market and take advantage of, the reversal in price, reversal in the trend of the market. So that is what I call the support level. So let me look for another example on my screen of a support. Okay, let me just go down to the 8 hour time frame or lower time frame, so that I can give you one more example before I move forward to resistance. So there's always a lot of support and resistance on your screen, and but let me just go on before I start talking about the strength of support and resistance. Okay, here I have another one here. Let me use my trend line again. So I don't know if you can see this, but just okay. Okay, let's draw from here and draw through. Is it this place? Okay, let's draw from here, from this place, and draw through. Okay, so this is another support area. Yes, this is another support area. Okay, all right. So this has about how many touches? 4 touches, right? The first touch is, I don't know, my hand is not straight, so let me adjust a little bit. All right, this is the first touch where the market started buying. It moved a little bit and market came back to this place. So buyers will take advantage of this second touch. And you see how, see the market movement, see how it's moved up so much, right? And after all this movement, just follow my cursor. Market came down again to this same line and retest this place. But in this in at this point, we have a little bit of situation. You can see market break through out of this line. It's break out of this line. But in this case, we'll call this thing a fake breakout. A fake breakout. A breakout is when markets break through maybe a support area or a resistance area. But at times we used to have a fake breakout. A fake breakout is when market act as if it wants to break out of a line, of a zone, but it's still, come back into the zone. See how it's like, see how it's like, for some people who trade breakout, we'll still get to that. They would have just, as markets break out of this line, they would have just started selling. But this is just a fake breakout. You see, markets came back into this place. So anybody that was trying to sell this breakout would have lost money. Look at, market came back into this area and started buying again. It bought for a while again. You see, it retraces, it reverses, it came back to the support area again, bounces off the support area, and then moved up. You can see I moved up a lot, so the trend is still even continuing. You can see. So you can see this one has like 4 touches. 4 touches. The first one, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is what I mean by support area. So just like follow me, because I will still give you a task at the end of this class. So I hope you understand better how to identify your support area on your charts now. So I think that will be all. And it is over to you now to identify support areas on your screen for me, because really what I've just explained is really simple. Just identify. You train your eyes to see all these things, all these opportunities. So the number two, we'll talk about resistance. Let me move on. I don't want this course to be so long. So let me resistance. So it's still the same psychology behind it. It's still the same knowledge. It's just that this one is the reverse. So I call the support the floor area. This resistance, let us call it the ceiling area. The ceiling area. So it's just like the floor of your house. Something is like it's supporting everything, right? Use that understanding to interpret it. The floor in your house is supporting you, like it's supporting everything that is inside your house, and the ceiling, right, is resisting, is the highest level of your house, right? So that's the resistance. So let us move on. The ceiling the ceiling area. So this is just for you to understand better. So let me just go on. So when we talk about the resistance area, we're talking about an area where the supply exceed demand. Supply exceed area where supply exceed the demand. Area where supply exceeds demand. In simple terms, I'm just saying that there is a lot of selling but no buyers, right? A lot of selling but no buyers. A lot of sellers but no buyers. So that's what we call support. So there's a lot of selling pressure but few buyers. That's like very simple knowledge. You can write that down. When we're talking about support, we're talking about a lot of buyers but few sellers. When we're talking about resistance, a lot of sellers but few buyers. Right. So let me draw the resistance. It's just like this complete opposite the of the support. So I'll name it resistance to resist of something means for something to like something when something is resisting something, it means that 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 thing is unable to like go beyond a point. Yes, that's another word for it. So now let me draw. So you can see when it gets to this point, the market was buying, but when it gets to a point in the market, certain point, it is refusing to keep on buying because there's something that is resisting price. And to me, I would say the sellers, there's a lot of sellers in the market. Sellers have come to take control of the market. Uh, it's resisting price from going higher than this. So the market retraces. Let me just let me pick my part two again. You can see market is unable to like break through this area, and as the market touches this point, it is bouncing back, it is resisting. So this tell you that a lot of sellers in the market are selling from this point. So if you are not able to get in at the first touch, you can get in at the second touch. Is as a sell opportunity for you. And if you are not able to get in at the second touch, you can get at the third touch. So these are opportunity for you to like sell in the market, right? So that is what we call the resistance. So I will show you on the screen some resistance area. I'm going to draw. Okay, this is one here. Let me draw it out. This is the resistance area. So you understand me now? You can see as market is, let me name it resistance. Okay, resistance. So as you can see, as market is getting to this resistance point, it is bouncing back. On prices, prices is unable to like move past this area. And at the second touch, you see market when market got to this point, it begins to sell, right? So this is the first touch, it sold, and market retraces back to the same resistance area, and you can see what happened. It sold again, and then we have the third touch. Market still went back to that point, but you see a trick here. Market broke out of this place and it still came into this zone again. So this is what I call the fake breakout, fake breakout, and still came into the zone again. So but this is still in action. It's still, this is the current market price here. So we can see this touch, this market, this we have the first touch. Well, I know you understand what I'm trying to do there. The second touch, and then the third touch. Yeah, I can even say it's like three touches, because if you look at this point here, you see a rejection candlestick here. It's like three touches, four touches. Market rejected, bounced back from this point, and still continue selling, broke out of the area and still come back again. So we have like three touches. I mean, this is touch three, and then touch four. This one four. So that is it about support and resistance. Let me go on to show you other examples on my screen. Other example on my screen. Yeah. So let me just use this as an example before I move on. This is another support resistance area. Another resistance area. This has just like two touches. The third touch, it didn't really get to the line. So you can see market sold off from here. It sold off, came back to this point, sold off again. The third touch, it didn't really touch the trend line anyways. It still sold and then broke out of this resistance, and just kept going. So that is it about support and resistance. I know that I hope that you have gotten the idea to this point. And moving forward, we'll talk about breakouts too. You know, yeah, breakouts too. But before that, I want to just give you some functions of support and resistance. What do we use support and resistance to do? Right? What do we use support and resistance to do? The first thing we use support and resistance to do is, number one, we use it to enter a trade. We use to enter a trade, right? So I'm a trader. I've seen how market sold from this point, and I'm looking for another opportunity to sell, to get into this market. I will draw my line and I'll wait for markets to get to this line again so that I can sell, right? So we use it to and I'll get in at this point. We use it to get into the market. So that's function of support and resistance. We also use support and resistance to okay, yeah, I said the first function is to enter a trade, and there are two type of ways we can use support and resistance to enter a trade. The first one is if we are trading breakout, and the second one is if you are trading reversal, right? What I've been explaining so far is reversal. You see how market bounces off each time it gets to a support and resistance zone. So that is just reversal, like using support and resistance to trade the reversal of a trend. Market was buying from this point, it got to this point and started selling. So using my support and resistance, I can tell that, okay, I've drawn my resistance line. I'll be waiting for market to get to that resistance line again so that I can use it to enter a trade and sell. So I took this opportunity, I sold. You see, market still reverses and comes to this line again. So if I want to use support and resistance to trade breakout, and at this point to trade breakout, what at this point where market broke out of this resistance, if I enter a buy, I would have lost my money because look at this breakout is a fake breakout. So I will still teach you in subsequent class how to trade breakouts properly. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about before I end this section, because we have spent about 30 minutes and I don't want this video to be very long. So another one thing I want to important thing I want to let you know is that there are situations where support can turn to resistance and resistance can become support, right? There are situations where support can become resistance and resistance can become support, and that is linked to what we call breakout. So that's what we call okay. Right, we'll just take it one by one. I'll talk about situations where the support can become resistance. So let me just look for that type of situation on my screen. Okay. Okay, but let me first draw. Let me draw like I always draw so that you can get it better when I come to my charts. Let me use my text box where support becomes a resistance. So let's go. Let me draw my support line. This is what we call a support. So this support can also become a resistance. That's just what I'm trying to say. And use my part tool to draw it. This is what we call support. Market bouncing off this area, bouncing off this area, refusing to break down this point. At some point this support will become weaker, right? That can and it will not be able to hold price again, and markets will just decide to break out, break below the support. So let me just continue drawing. So if it has tested so many times, you know the strength of this support will reduce. So that's another factor that you should put in mind. Like a very strong support should have about 2 to 3 to 4 touches, right? But when it is more than that, when we have 6 to 7 touches, the support level will become weaker, and then at that point the price will be looking to break out of the support. So we have about 1 2 3 4 5 touches. So you can see it should just at some point it should just it will just lose momentum. Market will lose momentum, unable to buy, and sellers will just come to the market to dominate the market. Let me get my path to again, because this is so is to break below this point, right? Market break below this support and then coming back to this support area, and now market is now resisting, like price is not, like is not resisting price, like price is unable to move up again. So this is what we call a valid breakout. So we see markets start retesting this support area, but at this point it's no longer called a support, it is now called a resistance. Market coming back to this support area, resisting price, now it is now called a resistance. So that's what I mean, that a support can become a resistance. At this point, it is a support, but at this point it is a resistance. So let me just identify that. Resistance. So I think you get the idea like that. So let me just quickly talk about a situation where okay, let me show you my screen. Let me show you my screen, and then we'll quickly talk about a situation where resistance becomes support. Now, let's quickly look for areas, a situation where a support became a resistance. A support became a resistance. A support became a resistance. So, mm. All right, all right. So this might not be as because it might not be as perfect as the way I drew it, but this is one example. So this is at this point we see that we have a support. Market was bouncing off this point and was buying, and then the support became a resistance. So it might not be as perfect as it is when I was drawing. So you can see, I will just quickly explain. At this point, we had a support in the market. Market was, bouncing off this line and was buying, and then it broke out of this point, and you can see how market was still bouncing off this area and acting as a resistance here. You see that? So there are situations where a support can become a resistance. Yeah, I'm sure you get the idea now. And quickly, because time has gone, I didn't expect to like spend this much time on support and resistance, but let's go. We have not even talked about breakout, but we'll talk about that in the subsequent lecture. So the fourth situation is the fourth scenario where the resistance becomes support. All right, so how do we draw our resistance line? You remember resistance. This is resistance. Okay, let me put it down a little bit. So this is our resistance. All right, so this is our resistance, and I'll use my part tool to describe how the movement goes. Market was buying, but when it gets to the resistance, you see sellers are now in control and they are pulling price down, so resisting upward movement. So you can see this thing is okay. I'll just draw it again. Can see how price is resisting when it gets to the the zone, and then it will get to a point where when the trend line, yeah, the support area has become weaker, price break out of it, and our resistance, the point which was once a resistance, you know price comes back and start retesting it as a support. Right now it is a support because at this point now becomes an area where buyers comes in, and area where money changes hand, and now a lot of buyers comes in and buy at this point. So so a resistance can also become a support. So that is the whole idea. So it was once a resistance, but now it is a support. So I will leave you to it now. That will be all I will be talking about on support and resistance. But in our subsequent class, I'm going to explain breakouts to you, and then we'll move on to the dense technical analysis. So I hope this is the fundamental aspect of trading, and this is like the you know, simplest concept. So you should like master it. How will you master it? I want you to like go on your chart. I know I'm sure you know how to like you know load your screen. Just type Deriv trading view on your Chrome or whatever browser you use. It will bring you to a screen like this, and identify support and resistance area on your chart. On your chart, just the way I did for you, just the way I identify support and resistance on the chart. I didn't say you should draw for me. Identify on the chart and label it support resistance. Take a screenshot of it or download it. There's a way you can save whatever you do on your chart. There's a way you can save whatever you do on your chart. Okay. Yeah. The way you can save it is just come to this place. I think this point. No. This point that look like a camera, and just press download image. So that's another way to save whatever you do on your chart, and then submit it to the group. Just send your assignment. That's your task for this class, and you just send it to the groups. You can see this is what we have done so far on support and resistance. So I want you to go through it. You can see that it's not difficult at all to understand. Even looking at the image, you just get it, right? So the whole concept is just for you to understand it, and not only limited to understanding, to apply those concepts too. So going forward, we'll talk about, after we talk about breakouts, so that I don't want this video to be long. We have already spent over 40 minutes. So after like talking about support and resistance, I'll talk about trends. So in our next class, we'll talk about breakouts and we'll talk about market trends. So just put it in mind, and don't forget to do your tasks. So that will be all. See you in the next class. Thank you for listening. And if you have any question at all, or you are struggling to understand anything, reach out to me and I will answer you. Thank you very much for attending this class. Do your tasks. Yeah, see you in the next class.